Well, hello there. This is Carol at the Social Canvas. Welcome to my channel. I'm glad you can join me today. And if you want to join in and paint along, that would be fabulous too. I'm going to show you how to paint this lovely tropical flower, which I believe is a hibiscus. I might go a little rogue and change my background and change some elements, but this is just the basis of the one I did on this small canvas paper here. I'm using a 16 by 12 inch canvas, which actually I've painted over, which I don't necessarily recommend because you lose the tooth. But, you know, if you've got one that you want to just practice on, then that's a good idea. I'm using a variety of brushes here, but you know what? Whatever you've got should work. As long as you've got one large one, whether it's an angled or flat, and a selection of small ones, detailed ones, small angled ones, you should be fine. I am using acrylic paints, and I've got a selection of Winsor and Newton Galleria and the odd golden and Daler-Rowney mixed in here. Basically student to medium grade paints, and I'm just using a tear-off palette here with a mixture of colours. I'll go through them as I'm going along, but mainly I'm going to start, well, I shall use a variety of pinks and reds, yellow. I'm going to add some green in there, a little bit of black, some blue, and some white, which I tend to go through quite a bit, and this is a bigger canvas. So we're going to get to it because I don't want to take too long and keep you waiting. So I'm going to just pencil out a shape that I think is going to work, probably similar to this shape. It's got a very jagged edge, as you can see. So I'm just going to loosely draw in a jagged edge and then bring that petal in to sort of the middle section. I'm going to just round out a little circle right about there. I say circle, but as you can see, it's an oval shape. And then from here, I'm going to do another jagged edge. You can have it coming off your canvas if you want, rather than mine's not central. And so I've got that coming in there. And then I'm going to have that bit going off the edge a bit. You can't see that one. And then this one's going to come out a little bit again, jagged edge. It's not perfect. And then I'm going to just bring that up a bit and down like that. Again, jagged edge. And then overlap this one. I think this one's going to be a little bit rounder, come out like that. So that's the basis of the flower itself. If you cannot see it, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to paint in lightly the edge of mine by using a small round detail brush. And I'm going to use a little tiny bit of black, not much, enough water on your brush, roll it. I'm just going to add a little tiny touch of green, which this is phthalo green, but any green will do. A touch of white in there, because I don't want a dark edge. A little lightish sort of green, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit of yellow in there too. I just want an edge. So I'm going to paint that in again over my... Try not to think about it too much, and then, you know, you'll find that you work a lot better if you don't. And of course, this paint you can paint over. If you don't like it, you can fix anything. Now, you don't need an awful lot of water, but if you do want a little watercolour type painting, of course, you can add more. Okay, let's just bring that on there. So I'm going to very loosely go over my lines here. Like that. A little bit more black in there. Touch more black and just put them back in there. Got a bit too pale, I think. In places I want it to show more than others, really. If your brush sort of loses its nice edge or point, you just have to roll it on your palette there to get it back again. This one here, I'm just going to bring that straight across, as you can see, just the way it's sitting there. Alright, okay. So now you get the idea of the shape a bit more in colour. Alright, so I'm not going to do the little middle bit here until the end. It's very hard to go around it otherwise. So I'm going to always start with a lighter colour. So I'm going to start with a pale yellow. So I'm going to get my larger brush now, which is a larger angled brush, as you can see. Any flat brush will do. I'm going to wet that brush. I'm going to grab some white. I want a clean yellow really, so I'm just grabbing that white and some yellow there. I may add a little bit of orange tone in here. I can't decide yet, but I'm going to start with that pale yellow to begin with, and I'm going to fill in this. Doesn't matter if you lose some of those lines where you painted in, that's absolutely fine. Let's just bring that in like that. I'll start with a pale colour, it's just good to build up the colours anyway. Let's bring it all in there. You can bring a little bit more yellow in if you want, but I'm going to do that probably towards the end, so that way you can build up some different tones in there. Just bring that in like that. You can stop, rewind, pause, whatever, watch again at any other time. So if I am going a little bit too fast for you, you have that option. Some people paint faster than others. I get that. That's okay. Let's bring that in there. And bring it around the corner a bit up there too. Use my edge a little bit. Doesn't matter if you go outside your lines, they can always be painted. It's not to worry about. Alright, once you've got that yellow bit in, let's pick up a bit more yellow and not too much white. And let's just put some of those in. Now I'm using the flat side of my brush here like this rather than the flat. You see the flat would be like this and then the pointy bit would be like that. I get my words confused sometimes. So I'm coming in more at an angle with some of these. You can see I'm sweeping them in from the edge a bit more, not all the way, just a few. Again, I try not to do anything in uniform, just randomly choose them. So I'm going to add just a tiny bit of red to my yellow now to make an orange. Now it depends on the red that you have as to what kind of orange comes out on your palette there. Of course, different reds will be different colours. So I'm just going to bring a tiny bit of orange in. So yellow and red makes orange, of course. If you choose to do your flower a different colour, that's up to you too. Don't do too much, just a little bit in there. I think that's probably enough. So now I'm just going to wipe there's plenty of paper here, wipe my brush off and then wash it off in the top of my palette there. I'll just get it reasonably clean, although I'm going to pink. Now pink, you can make just a pale pink with red and white. That's a different kind of pink, more a peachy pink. Or you can grab a pink. I have a couple of different pinks here. One is actually permanent magenta and the other one is magenta, or quinacridone. Either of those works. I'm going to grab some white first. I don't want to make it too dark to begin with. I'm going to use the permanent. I think this one is permanent. See how that's a completely different pink from what you would get if you were doing the red and the white. You get more of a peachy pink. Either of those works. I'm just going to go with this one for now and see how it looks. I'm starting with a fairly light pink first. These will blend if your paint is still wet, so it might turn out a little bit different colour, but I kind of like the blended look. So I'm going to bring that all the way down towards my centre. In fact, that centre is going to be dark in the end, but I'm going to build up some colour on this, so it doesn't really matter that much. This is not as pink as that one. I just thought I'd do something different, but as I said, you can choose. That's more of a reddy pink. I'll probably add a little bit of that in here and there. I'm going to try something different. Don't forget to add some water every now and again. And make sure your canvas is covering pretty good, rather than leave any white of the canvas underneath, but you know, that's how you like it, that's fine. Just going around this edge. Doesn't matter if this is any shape or form. So a little bit of orange is coming out on there because I do still have a little bit of that yellow on my brush. If you don't wash it out good, it will come through eventually. Making sure I overlap though, so I don't have any white in between. Something a little bit of that pink with a little bit of white coming up there. And do the same thing here. Doesn't matter if you have a two-tone on your brush either, like pick up a little bit of white on that brush with the pink and it sort of showed through a little bit. Okay. Okay, I'm going to build up a bit more of that pink. I may stay with that and I may add some different colours, but I'm just putting a little bit more of just the quinacridone. I think it's the permanent one. You can see it's a different colour pink, but I just want to build up a few of those tones in there from the central area of my flower. And you do have to be careful sometimes with different reds don't always look together, or different pinks don't always look together well or work together well. But it's trial and error, you know, and I'm going to do the same thing here today, is try a different tone on top. And you know what, if it doesn't work, I'll show you how you can just fix it. But you look at yours first and decide if you like it your way or my way. Or maybe you like what I don't, you know? Personal preference here. More water on there. Okay, now I'm going to add in, I think I'm gonna try, well, this is why I said it may not work, I'm gonna try some red. I'm not washing my brush off, with a little bit of yellow to make more of a darker orange. I've still got the pink on my brush because I'm trying to see if that actually works together. As you can see, I like to experiment here. That's kind of come out a reasonably darkish orange. And I'm just putting some elements of that in my painting. I'm not going to overdo it though, because I'm not quite sure whether I like it or not. But you know what? This is a good trial. Don't mind it, it's okay. It's okay. Okay, that's okay. I don't mind that. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make a bit of a purpley tone. If you don't have a purple, you can make it with blue and red, or blue and pink, I should say. I'm just going to wash my brush off first. Blue and red and white does kind of get you a purple, but not maybe the one you want. So I'm going to grab that pink back again, a bit of white here, and a touch of blue in with it. You can see how purple it's gone. Get a little bit of water on there because it's quite a dry tone. So I'm just going to bring right from, in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to paint that middle section that colour first, because I am going to go over it again with a dark. But it's just easier to bring your purple out from there. If you want your purple darker, just add a bit more blue in, which is what I'm just doing actually myself. And then I'm going to start bringing some of that out from there as well. From here, I'm not going right into that section. I'm trying to keep it short. You can switch to a small brush if you find it difficult with a bigger one, but I'm going to bring that purple out a little bit more there. I don't want that edge showing through, so I'm just blending that in a bit more. So I'm going to get to a dark colour anyway, so it doesn't matter quite as much. Alright, so that's not bad, that's not bad, that's not bad. I don't mind that colour. The colours are good. Okay, so of course we want that dark section, but I don't want to do that yet because I do want to, I'm going to wait for this to dry and then paint this on top white, so we can then add the colours on top because it's going to be much easier. So while we're waiting for that to dry, why don't we decide on the background? Now I'm going to decide on this to do a completely different background than what I have by the way of some blues and greens, and it's going to be a little bit more tropical if you like. So I'm going to grab some white and some phthalo green and add a bit of yellow in. So white, phthalo green and a bit of yellow. I'm going to get some tropical notes going. I'm going to make this quite abstract really. It's really not going to be a perfect anything. I'm going to add a bit up there. I'll try and make a few kind of leaf looking shapes anyway. I'm going to add a bit of blue in with my green as well, because I just want to take the edge off that brightness there. So I'm going to make this quite blue at the base, so a little bit of blue in with that green as well, to just make that edge there a little bit darker. So again, it doesn't matter if you go inside the lines a bit on this. Still using my dark brush, my big brush I should say. I'm going to put a few of those dark lines across here very randomly, like that. And I'm just going to leave that. And the brush is falling apart. I'm going to grab a little bit more white now. with a bit of yellowish green. And I'm just going to fill that in. Again, very loosely done. Try not to think about it too much. You can leave some white lines here and there if you want to. When I say white lines, I mean in between your little dark areas, or you can fill it in. There you go. One tropical leaf in the background. But what I'm going to do is I might do 2 or 3, and then I'm just going to paint the rest. Maybe a blue colour in the background. Deciding as I go along. I need more paint. It's a bit more yellow on my palette to go with my green. Alright. So I'm going to do a couple more loose ones like that hanging around. I might do another one sort of over here. You're not going to see as much as that one, but it'll be somewhere hanging out over here. I'm just going to do a line down the middle. Same thing, I'm just going to have a little bit more blue right at the base, so a bit more blue on my brush. I've already got the green on it, so it will kind of blend in with what I've got going on there. And then a couple of, again, sort of bluish green marks going that way. And then same thing again, I'm just going to grab some more white in with that pale yellowish green, and I'm going to fill that in. So where I haven't, like that. It's very kind of abstract really, it's not meant to look perfect in any way. Aren't you happy with that? Nothing needs to be looking quite as perfect as that. I think I'm going to have another one coming out here because I don't want them all symmetrical. So I'm just going to wiggle my way down like that from there. Again, I'm going to grab some blue right at the base, and I'll just actually put some blue in the middle there. A little bit more water. And just at the base, a bit more of the bluish green. I'll leave this underside, this side a little bit lighter, like that. Again, I'm going to grab the white and the light green with a bit of white. This is the thing I always need more of is white. So let's just fill that in. You can play with these colours too, you know, pick up some white, some yellow, some blue, some green, and just really mix it up, you know. That's what I like to do. Just try not to think about it too much. Very abstract sort of style, if you like. And of course you can add in as many of greenery around there as you want to. I'm trying not to make it too, see where I've got them all sort of spaced at different angles. I may just add another one sort of down here, but I think I'm only going to do that many, and then I'm going to fill in the rest. So I'm going to just plonk one more somewhere down here, and I may have that coming at a slightly different angle. Like it's coming out there a bit, I think. Again, I'm just wiggling it to a central point. And grab some of that blue back in there and on my brush and make that the darker of the areas. And just see, I'm really mixing it up. Grabbing some white and some yellowish green again, and I'm just going to go back in there and just paint it in. Very loosely done. It's my favourite kind of painting. When you just don't think about it too much, because it always works out much better. than it does if you think about it too much. All right, so that's as much greenery as I'm going to do. So while I'm still waiting for this to dry, which actually is quite dry, but I think I'm going to go in and add some two-tone blues in my background. So I'm going to do that before I carry on too much more. So I'm going to wash up my brush because I want a relatively clean brush. I don't want the greens coming out into my blues. So just really, really dip it into your water and clean it off. Or use another brush. That's always an option, of course. Another brush. Got some white on my plate. I'll just grab a bit more. This is Winsor blue from Winsor & Newton. Probably named it themselves. I'm just going to put some of that down as well. And so now I'm going to start adding some, I think I'm going to start with a pale blue first. I'm grabbing some white and some blue. As you can see, I'm coming up with a reasonably pale blue. And I'm going to add some of those outer areas there with some pale blue. Again, I'm trying not to think about this too much. Get a really abstract look. Doesn't matter if you change tone of blue. Whoops, I'm going down a bit. That wasn't good. Apologise for that. Happens when you press too hard and you get too excited. Yeah, that's me. I'll just grab a little bit more blue. A little bit more outside there, a little bit darker. Loosely do it. All that blue off your brush. Like that. I'm going to make it darker at the bottom here. So what I'm doing here is I'm leaving a lot of this loose. Again, I might slap a bit of white in here, like that. And then I'm going to start getting a bit darker around the flowers themselves. So I'm grabbing the blue by itself. Like I say, I'm not washing my brush off. So it will be, what I'm doing here is, you can see I'm just doing that blue around the edge of my leaf. So it kind of looks a bit like a shadow effect. As I said, anytime you want to stop and look at the process again and have a go yourself in, because you know, it's, as I said, it's a very loose style, and I think it's a good idea to sort of learn that, because then you're not worrying too much about it looking kind of perfect. That's why I love abstract, because really abstract is not perfect. Sometimes you just come upon, you know, a certain way of painting and realise that's what you like. Impressionistic, whatever you want to call it. Okay, you can see how I've left that very loose up there. Add that bit around there as well. Don't worry about going over any edges. Doesn't matter if you do a little bit at all. Okay, you see this is an experiment as well for me, because I'm really just going with the flow and I'm making up some of it. Not that I'm making it all up. And if you don't like it, you can always just go with a plain background like that. Maybe starting with a dark blue on the outside and adding some white and some red to make some purple and lighten it up as you're going in. You know, you don't have to follow this exact painting. I'll have to switch my paintbrush here in a minute. I'm using that's why I'm holding it right up here, because my edge is very loose. It's been overworked, poor paintbrush. I know the feeling. Okay. So it's hard to tell what it looks like until you look from a distance. Which of course I'm sitting next to it, so I can't do that, but I will get out of my seat probably and have a look in a minute. Okay, as I said, I'm going to make this a darker blue down the bottom here, so I'm going to go a little bit more blue. The water. Try not to get my sleeve in the paint. If you ever want to make a blue much darker, there's a couple of different ways you can do it. You can add a touch of red in, that will sort of make it more of a dark purpley blue. You can have a touch of black in there as well. I may just show you a little bit how that works, because sometimes a flat blue or just a one-tone blue doesn't look as good as a few different variations in there, and I mean like shadow effects, if you like. I'm not painting the outside of my canvas here, as you can see. I'm going to get this in first before I show you anything like that. I always talk about tying in colours as well from different areas of your painting. If one area looks like you've got one colour and it doesn't sort of seem to match, then you just tie it in the other area somehow. So you can see I've got a lot darker down the bottom here. And I'm going to just add in a touch of red and show you what I mean by getting a little bit darker. So right just here, right around the edge, for instance. Hopefully you can tell. Maybe because it's still wet, but I'm going to try and just put a little bit of that in. So you see I've got a little bit of red in with my blue, and it's gone darker. You may not see it that much, but I can certainly know it's there. So that's how to make it a little bit darker. You can put a bit of black in, but of course it gives a different colour, so it's not always to people's liking. See how it's gotten quite a bit darker with that red in now. I'll try and keep my edge a bit more. Okay, stick that up a little bit so it can dry on the bottom. Just wait for that to dry just a little bit. So you can see I've got different tones in, and this obviously being, you know, in more of the foliage, it's darker. So, you know, you can add some greens back in there as well. But I'm going to add a touch of green. So you can either do this while it's wet, or because if you do it while it's getting dry, you might find you pull the paint off a little bit. So you do have to be careful on that. So I'm just going to get a little bit of a dark yellowish green. So I'm getting the green with the yellow. So it's phthalo green and yellow, but I've still got some blue on my brush. So it's going to blend in some way. And you can put little accent pieces like this. Maybe it's a leaf somewhere in the background, you know, and just sort of tie in that area a little bit. So I'm just going to bring it up to the camera so it can be seen, if you see what I'm saying. It's a very subtle effect. It's not anything sort of You know it's there, but these can be added in wherever you want. If you want to add a little bit on the side, just tie it in, and then that's what I'm going to do down there. I'm going to add a little bit more lighter green though, and I might just add a little bit, just deciding whether I really want to add anything up there or not. I don't think I do. And as I said, I certainly don't want to ruin it if I'm happy with how it is. And that's why, you always look at it from a distance and say to yourself, is that good enough? Am I happy with that? Before you carry on too much, because that's key. I'm just going to make this a little bit darker just here on this edge. Put in some of my veiny bits a little bit more. I want to make them again too perfect, so that's why I made them a bit more abstract. Okay, I'm okay with that. I think that looks okay. So what I'm going to do now is just put my big brush in the water to keep it clean, and I'm going to get my small detail brush. Any brush will do, whatever works for you. There is also a filbert, as it's called, a very small one I've got here. See how small it is? These are quite small brushes by my hand. But first of all, I'm going to get a clean brush. I'm going to get the white off of my palette, not messy palette here. I'm going to get the white, clean white. I'll roll my brush a little bit so I can get a nice point on my brush, because it becomes all messy otherwise. And I'm going to put that, what do you call it, stem there, coming out from the middle. I am going to do some dark colours, but I'm not going to do those yet. So I am going to angle my, so I've started off quite thin, and then I'm going to get a bit thicker as I'm coming in to that central area, and then I'm going to just leave off about there, as you can see. And here I'm going to get the end of my brush, and I'm just going to dot some random white on the ends, sort of in a, not in a circle per se, but of a longish shape, and it's coming up. I'm going to leave some areas in between free rather than paint it all in, dot it all in, a bit like that. Okay, I'm going to go over my white just one more time. Like that, something like that. Right. So, while we're waiting for that to dry, we're going to go around this gingerly with some dark. Now, I'm going to use some black on my brush. Again, this is a Mars Black by Winsor & Newton, and you do have to have some amount of water in with that to make it flow. I don't want to go too overboard with that. So you could make a dark purple with the red and the blue, or the blue and the pink, and then add a bit of black in. There's different options again on that if you don't want to go too dark. But I'm going to grab a little bit more of my magenta back. And I think I've still got some blue. So even though I've just made some black, I'm going to grab up some of my blue and my magenta, and you can see it still goes quite dark because I've got black on my brush, and that will soften that up just a little bit from being too black. And then I'm going to go around, around that area here, and the lines. Not a total circle because it's sort of coming out from that circle there. I'm just going to get that in there first. And a little bit bigger than that. So I'm going to go back to that purpley tone rather than the black. Add a touch of white to it. So it looks a bit of a mess from where you are maybe, but I've just added a tiny bit of red into that blue pink, black mixture, for want of a better word. And I'm just going to pull some lines out from the very edge of my black. In fact, I think I might just go back to the dark colour first and just pull some out, just some little bits out. So I'm just flicking out from there. Just be careful when you go around there, of course. I don't want to do it too much over here because the flick out is more subtle over that side. The colours are a little bit subtle, so I'm going to just do a short flick or two coming out from this side. Not here though, because this is a one that's folded over a little bit. Okay, so about like that. And rather than, I'm going to wipe that brush off a little bit rather than wash it off. I'm going to grab a copious amount of white back over here where I had my reddish, bluish, purplish, and you see I'm coming out with quite a light one now. So I want to get lighter as I'm going up here there. That might be a little bit too white, so a little bit more blue back in there with my red, my pink, I don't know what I'm saying. I'm just going to come from here. Yeah, I think I need a little bit more pink in with that. So I'm going back with a little bit more pink in with that mixture because I don't want it too grey. I'll come out a little bit grey otherwise. So let's see, is that better? Grab some more of that magenta, I think, just so it blends a bit better into that. Like that. I'll bring a little bit of this over here too, because then it, what I call, ties in with the rest of the colours. I'm just bringing that in just into there. And you can see some of that magenta's coming off of my brush too, and that's fine. Let me tie it in. A little bit out there. And a little bit more over here. Right. I think it looks okay. Not as bright as this one. As I said, you can always add the brightness if you want to go a bit brighter. So what I'm doing is I'm waiting for my white to finish because I need to put a little bit of tone on there as well. While I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm going to just highlight some of the areas of my flower. I'm going to grab a little bit of that purpley blue black, as I call it. Again, not totally black. I'm rolling my brush on my palette, and I'm just going to put a little bit more of a accent edge. Maybe not all the way around, but maybe some of the way around. So I'll miss little bits. And go over my green a little bit there as well. So I'm going to bring that in. Again, just touches here and there, especially on the underside, I would say. Just want it to stand out a little bit more boldly, but not to the point you're going to see it too much. Especially this bit here where it's joining up with the centre and maybe coming out here too where it's coming out there. You can highlight all of your edges, of course, and that's including your leaves. Sometimes a lot of people do paint like that as well, where they highlight the edges a lot more, especially the undersides, because the undersides, of course, it'll be more shadowy, so you could just get that edge and follow it around a bit more. I know we did that with a bit of blue, but you know, you could do it with a little bit of black too. But I would survey it from a distance, decide if you like it or not, do a couple if you don't like too many, the edge is too dark, then just don't do any more. Just going to do a couple. I think that's it. Maybe a slight edge coming down here. Maybe a little bit there. Okay, as I said, don't want to overdo it. So, there we go. Now my white by now should be touch dry, but I did go over it twice, so it might not be. Final part, and we're going to bring up some of the pink that's coming up from the centre there. So if you've got your pink still handy, or your magenta as the case may be. A little bit of red with it actually might look good. That's a personal preference again. If you want red or if you want magenta, it will all come out a little bit different regardless. I'm going to put a little bit of red in with it. So right up from the bottom here, I'm coming with that colour. I want it all white, and I'm going to just do it right through the middle section a little bit like that. So it makes it a little bit more like the light is darker at the bottom of the, I'm not sure if it's called stamen actually. I was saying I should learn my flower. I'm just going to put a little bit of red dots in there somehow, just so that that stands out a little bit more. In fact, I might just bring a little bit of more of the red coming into here. And you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually grab the red, and I am going to pull some of the red through a little bit more, because I think that's what I need. A little bit more red just pulling through here and there, because it will brighten it up. You can see how it's brightening it up as I'm putting it on there. Beware of any wet areas because they will blend with the red. Okay, there we go. I kind of like that. It's a little abstract, a little different, and you know, a little bit more fun. And of course, if you do like your hibiscus with a bit more of a florally bendy leaf, because they aren't straight, they're very, very bendy, the leaf edges. So you can obviously go back in and you can make those a little bit more bendy by just bringing in some of the areas on the outsides. Again, it's a personal preference. I'm just going to grab some yellow to the side and a little tiny bit of red, because I'm going to do one more thing before I finish, and some white, I think. Get some clean white, that is. Don't want to mix it up with anything else. I'm just bringing a very lightish, I say light, I'm trying to get the clean yellow here. Try not to contaminate it, because I'm just bringing in a few more yellowy areas. So you're going to try and, it's just where like the flower bends out a little bit, or bends in, bends, you know, where the bends are, just so it gives that more of a authentic look there. Yeah, that gives it a bit more richness, that yellow as well. And just plonk it in some different areas, and maybe on the edge too. Why not? Why not is what I say. Why not? It's good to play with your colours. Yeah. All right. That is it. That is my hibiscus flower today. Do remember to wash your brushes off so they don't go stiff. And if you want to continue playing with your colours and your tones and your accents, etc., then then by all means do, but do remember to put your little initials in the corner, which I always try and do, just to show it's mine, be proud of it. I'm going to grab a little bit of white, and I think a little bit of light blue if I've still got some on my palette. I don't want my initials to show up too brightly, so I'm using my smallest of brushes, rolling it there, and I'm going to just put my initials right in the corner here. There you go. That's it. And that is done. Thank you for joining me. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. And go to the Social Canvas UK Facebook page. I'd love to see your paintings, if you dare. And why not? Okay, we'll see you again soon at the Social Canvas. Bye for now.